Infamous Republican invertebrate Lindsey Graham publicly endorsed Donald Trump at a Trump rally over the weekend, giving us the opportunity to correct his revisionist history and mock them both. So in the current iteration of the Republican Party, it's really hard to tell who is the most spineless among their ranks because that's such a hotly contested title. But for my money, my mind instantly goes to either Senator Ted Cruz of Texas or Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. And as tempting as it is to make a video making fun of Lyin' Ted, as Trump famously called him, or Flyin' Ted, after he tried to skedaddle to Cancun when Texas was in the middle of power grid issues that were causing millions upon millions upon millions of his constituents to freeze, some of whom freeze to death, we actually have to turn our focus to the other Southern gentleman, the senator from South Carolina, a.k.a. Blanche Devereaux from the Golden Girls, Mr. Lindsey Graham, because he was the keynote speaker at a Trump rally in South Carolina. I think it was actually the first official Trump rally as part of his 2024 presidential race. And Trump allies of any repute are kind of in short supply, so beggars can't be choosers. And even though Trump reportedly feels enormous contempt for Lindsey Graham, which he should because Graham is a two-faced coward who basically he's kind of a political mercenary. When John McCain was alive, the compassionate conservative war veteran who ran against Barack Obama in 2008, when he was alive, Lindsey Graham hewed close to John McCain, considered him a dear friend, and tried to, forge a partnership with him. Then McCain died, and Lindsey Graham was looking for another patron, so despite criticizing Donald Trump repeatedly in 2015 and 2016, he became a Trump sycophant. So, and of course, they've had a rocky relationship even during that situation, and we'll get into that. But anyway, so he was the keynote speaker, publicly endorsing Donald Trump in South Carolina, and during his speech endorsing Trump, he made a number of misleading or just completely wrong claims that we should take a look at because it was revisionist history designed to fluff up Trump's record as president, which of course was terrible, objectively speaking. But let's hear what Senator Graham has to say.
How many times have you heard, we like Trump policies, but we want somebody new? There are no Trump policies without Donald Trump. I was there. You know why $400 billion was given by NATO nations? Because he asked and they were afraid to say no. Every president since I've been up there has asked NATO to give more money, but they gave more money when he asked.
Let's start there, actually. Let's do this. Let's break it up one at a time. Okay, so let's fact check this. So with respect to NATO commitments, it was a flagship element of Trump's candidacy in 2015 and 2016 that he was going to make NATO pay more. He felt that NATO was not living up to its commitments. It wasn't pulling its own weight, and he was going to make them do that. And they did increase spending of their contribution to NATO defense under Trump's presidency. However, their commitment to do so began under President Obama. Under NATO commitments forged in 2014, 2 years before Trump took office, and when Barack Obama was president of the United States, and coinciding with Russia's annexation of Crimea, remember that? Remember the pre-Ukraine Russia territory grabs? Each ally had until 2024, so 10 years, right, from 2014 to 2024 rather, to increase their commitments to NATO defense, 2% of their respective GDP. So that was a commitment made under the Obama administration. They made a commitment to President Obama, like, hey, look, within 10 years, we're going to honor our commitment to spend 2% of our own GDP. Now, that happened during Trump's tenure. Does he get credit for it? Maybe, maybe not. A NATO scholar named Garrett Martin had this to say. He said, look, the increased spending predated Trump. I think that once the trend started changing in 2014, when the commitment was initially made, that created momentum even before Trump became president. Again, according to NATO scholar Garrett Martin. Now, maybe there's a bit more urgency now because he's blunter than his predecessors in criticizing his European partners. So maybe he gets some credit, right, for being more outspoken, but they're simply honoring commitments, or they simply honored commitments made to President Obama. in 2014. I'll also say that during Trump's administration, U.S. commitment, U.S. spending to NATO, our contributions also increased. So it wasn't a situation of where we cut back our spending and let them pick up the slack. We also continued to spend more and more under the Trump administration to NATO. So that rhetoric there is pretty misleading. But what else does Senator Graham have to say?
People talk about China. You did something about China. They finally paid. Everybody's been talking about China. You made them pay.
I don't know what the hell that means. Let's talk about that for a minute, because the Trump's fiscal policy with respect to China has been analyzed and dissected for the past 2 years, and the consensus is it was a gross failure. So Trump's trade war on China was a failure in every possible way, according to an Axios report, which itself derives from multiple economic studies after the fact. The Biden administration, and of course this was in February 2021, right? So this is a 2-year-old article, right? But the Biden administration planned to review the phase 1 of the U.S.-China trade deal based on publicly available data. It's hard to imagine they'll find anything other than a debacle. So based on initial findings, China wasn't even close to fulfilling its end of the deal, having come up about 42% short of its commitment. Okay, the phase 1 deal was meant to be the Trump administration's reward for U.S. farmers, manufacturers, and other business owners who had been bludgeoned by Trump's tax on American businesses via the trade war's tariffs, and we'll dive into that in a second. So the trade war was billed as a plan to bring China to its knees by choking off the all-important American market with 25% tariffs on many imports that would rein in the U.S. trade deficit. And we'll get into that in a second, too. The trade war with China hurt the U.S. economy and failed to achieve major policy goals, a recent study commissioned by the U.S.-China Business Council argues, finding that the trade war reduced economic growth and cost the U.S. about 245,000 jobs. Last year, the U.S. trade deficit widened to its largest on record. In the fourth quarter, U.S. trade good deficits hit its highest share of GDP since 2012, and the U.S. current account deficit jumped to its highest level in more than 12 years in the third quarter. Foreign direct investment to the U.S. fell about 50% in 2020, outpacing the global decrease of 42%. So foreign investment globally fell 42%, but to us specifically, foreign investment directly to us, it fell by about 50%, about 7% points higher. So the tariffs forced American companies to accept lower profit margins, cut wages and jobs for U.S. workers, defer potential wage hikes or expansions, and raise prices for American consumers and companies, according to analysts at the Brookings Institute. So just every way you slice it, and the article goes into deeper detail, it was just one disaster after another, one L after another. As a matter of fact, actually, no, this is the study itself from the U.S.-China Policy Council. Reduced economic growth and yada yada. Tariffs remain at a multi-decade high despite both countries reaching a phase 1 agreement of early 2020. So it was just a disaster. So I don't know what the hell Lindsey Graham is talking about with respect to making China pay. So what else does he have to say?
You know why Mexico said yes to you? Because you scared the hell out of them by taking on China.
Now that one, I really don't know what the hell he's talking about. Just real quick, as a sidebar, the flagship of the relationship between Mexico and the United States was the Trump administration saying that they were going to make Mexico pay for the wall. And China said, haha, no. And actually, under the Biden administration, the Mexican government has agreed to commit $2 billion into border security, high-tech, effective border security. So Biden got $2 billion more out of Mexico for border security than Trump ever got out of them. So not quite sure what he's talking about. But what else does he have to say?
You know why the Abraham Accords came about? It's because you convinced the Arabs and the Israelis you were strong and you're reliable. You killed the terrorist that needed to be killed. You convinced the Arabs to work with the Israelis, and the world is a better place. We live in a dangerous world right now. The good news for the Republican Party, there are many, many talented people for years to come, but there is only one Donald Trump.
Okay, so we'll just blitz through these real quick. As far as the Abraham Accords are concerned, that's not nothing. That was basically a Trump administration negotiated commitment to normalization, I think, between Israel, Bahrain and the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, right? And I think Bahrain and the UAE recognized Israeli sovereignty, for the first time. So that is something. And that's some sort of, diplomatic foundation, right? But it's not a game changer. It's not peace in the Middle East. It's nothing like that. It didn't end any war. There were no wars between these three countries of which I'm familiar. There were in the past, but weren't at the time of the adoption of the Abraham Accords. And as far as what it's accomplished now, I think they're playing football together, and I think that there are some like preludes towards trade deals and some sort of economic cooperation, but the Abraham Accords have not bore any fruit yet. So it's something, but it's not like Republicans and others touted this as peace in the Middle East. Oh my God, Donald Trump, he calmed the Middle East. We're now they're all holding hands, and there's a sense of cooperation and that has never been seen before, and it's just one people now. That's not the case. It is a meaningful diplomatic foundation, but that's it. The house has not been built, okay? As far as you killed the terrorists who need to be killed, I think he's referring to the Iranian General Soleimani that Donald Trump ordered a drone strike against, which is something. But under the Biden administration, Biden killed the guy with a drone strike who planned 9/11. The Al-Qaeda leader, the one who took over after bin Laden died, and I'm blanking on his name. So it's not like terrorists are thriving or enduring under the Biden administration. I think you could make the argument that guy, there was much more of a vendetta, of a grudge against the leader of Al-Qaeda than an Iranian general, right? So anyway, it's just interesting the claims that Lindsey Graham has made with respect to Trump. I do want to play two other clips because they're really, really important, just to kind of contextualize the relationship that Lindsey Graham has with Donald Trump. We're going to do one that he said very clearly after, actually it was the same day, it was January 6th, it was just hours after the MAGA insurrection occurred. Here's what Lindsey Graham had to say.
I hate it to end this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see, all I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful.
So count me out. Count me out. I hated how it ended. I was a Trump guy all the way through. But if this is how it's going to end, count me out. Except he wasn't counted out, because that was January 6, 2021. And now here we are, January 31st, 2023. And he's publicly endorsing the man to be not only the Republican nominee for 2024, but he's backing him for the presidency again. The guy who attempted a coup that Lindsey Graham said, whoa, that's way too far, count me out. I guess things change in 2 years. There's a statute of limitations on coups that only lasts 2 years. And then the last clip we'll play is just kind of remind everybody what Lindsey Graham said about Donald Trump in 2015 and 2016, which goes far beyond the sort of, exchange of insults and criticisms that you typically expect from primary candidates, because Lindsey Graham ran for president in 2015 and 2016, so Donald Trump was a competitor. And certainly candidates tend to talk shit about each other to some extent when they're running against each other for office, but nothing like this. They may criticize each other's policies or things or positions they've taken in the past, but listen to how Lindsey Graham described Trump for years before he became president.
My party is going bat crazy.
And I don't think he has the temperament or judgment to be commander-in-chief.
You know how you make America great again? Tell Donald Trump to go to hell.
Donald Trump is the most unelectable Republican I've seen in my lifetime.
He's not fit to be president of the United States.
The Republican Party has been kind here, bringing out the worst in us.
Disparaged women.
Opportunistic, religious bigotry, race baiting, xenophobia. He's a jackass.
No, I don't think he's.
So there you go. That was what he said about Donald Trump in 2015 and 2016. Again, those aren't substantive, minor political quibbles. Those are direct character judgments, character attacks. Those speak to how he views Donald Trump as a person fundamentally, right? It wasn't he advocated for this position and I would have done it a different way. He was saying Donald Trump lacked the temperament, the intellect, the character, the judgment to be president of the United States. And Donald Trump is the same man in 2023 as he was in 2015 or 2016. Let's give the man his credit, right? Donald Trump may be a liar and a thin-skinned narcissist, but there is actually this kind of weird consistency about him. He is consistently inconsistent, right? He may say one thing, Monday, and then say on Thursday that he never said that thing on Monday, but he is fundamentally the same person. He's still the same narcissist, thin-skinned coward who's anti-intellectual and not interested in learning things. The guy is the same. So all of the observations and judgments that Lindsey Graham was making about Donald Trump in 2015 and 2016, they applied to Donald Trump when he was in the White House, and they apply to Donald Trump now. Nothing has changed, except, of course, Lindsey Graham. So just wanted to correct the record on a lot of the revisionist history there. And, so hopefully the Trump candidacy crashes and burns, and Lindsey Graham's political reputation along with it, because this man deserves nothing but the contempt of the American people. And you see why. Hey, you! Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, and I hope that you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. And if you absolutely hated the video, the best revenge for you is also to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. That'll teach me. If you want to share an opinion or share some feedback, go ahead and leave a comment, all right? 2023 is a year of change, hence the aggressive rebrand and commitment to new content. Inspired by my friends Luke Beasley and STV Philly, my personal goal for this channel is to hit 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So I'm hoping you'll do me a solid by spreading the word and the videos to potential fans and hate watchers alike. And in the meantime, we'll be pondering politics again with you very soon.